There are moments in sports that define a career.
Cette technique enflamme les stades d'Argentine à une époque où règne le chaos.
And then there are moments that end them.
Both analyses of the urine sample have proved to be positive. And until the case is finally settled, Diego Maradona remains suspended from all footballing activity.
In 1994, the world witnessed the sudden and shocking downfall of one of football's greatest icons. A player so mesmerizing, so untouchable in his prime, that many believed he wasn't just a legend. He was football itself. Diego Maradona had done the impossible. He had conquered the world in 1986, lifted Napoli to heights they had never dreamed of, and carried an entire nation on his back. But for all his brilliance, he had demons, ones that would eventually consume him. And on that fateful day, during Argentina's opening game of the World Cup, the final chapter of Maradona's international career was written. It wasn't an injury. It wasn't age catching up to him. It was something far worse. This is the story of the game that ended Diego Maradona. It was Argentina's opening game of the 1994 World Cup. Diego Maradona was leading Argentina out for yet another tournament, just as he had done in 1986, when they conquered the world for only the second time, and in 1990, when they reached back-to-back World Cup finals. The game was against Greece, and it was expected to be a walk in the park for the South American giants. And indeed it was. The game ended 4-0, and Maradona was on the score sheet. But unbeknownst to him, and the rest of the world watching, that was to be his last goal for Argentina because of a really silly decision he made. But for you to truly understand what happened in that particular game and why it led to his ultimate downfall, I have to take you back to the very beginning. You see, if you never got to watch Maradona play, I'm sorry. You just weren't lucky enough. He was a real sight to behold, and a proper entertainer. At 5'5", he was often one of the smallest players on the pitch, but the things he could do with the ball always left everyone stunned. He started his career at Argentinos Juniors, and just 4 months after he made his professional debut, he made his international debut with the Argentina first team at just 16 years of age. Yes, he was that good. He could have won his first World Cup on home soil at the age of 17, but the coach decided not to call him up for the 1978 World Cup because he felt he was too young. Well, that happened for a reason. Maradona was never made to be a supporting cast. He was always destined to be the hero in his own story. So, he had to wait. He played his first World Cup tournament in 1982 at the age of 21. And that tournament seemed to set the tone for what his entire career would look like. He played the opening match of the tournament at the Camp Nou place that would become his home that summer. And then he was one of the most fouled players in the entire tournament in the game against Brazil, with Argentina losing the game 3-0 to their deathly rivals. Maradona lost his temper, kicked Batista in the midriff as a retaliation for an earlier foul, and got sent off. He was so young, but he had already announced to the world that he was an assertive player with God-level talent, but a very hot temper. Anyway, after that tournament, Maradona signed for Barcelona for a then world record fee of £5 million. The year was 1982. If you thought he was good before then, you should have seen him at Barcelona. Maradona was so good that he became the first Barcelona player to receive a standing ovation from Real Madrid fans at the Santiago Bernabéu. He scored in both legs to help Barcelona beat their arch-rivals to a trophy. So he instantly became a hero. But something significant happened in 1984, which effectively put an end to this hero's Barcelona career. Despite being the best player in the world at the time, the Argentine was always prone to violence. He had shown it as a 21-year-old at the World Cup, and he showed it again as a 23-year-old in the 1984 Copa del Rey final. During that game against Athletic Club, Maradona was repeatedly hard-tackled by Andoni, the same player who had nearly ended the Argentine's career with a nasty injury the previous year. Maradona was also booed and subjected to racial insults from the Athletic fans. Barcelona would end up losing that game 1-0 and missing out on the trophy. And after the full-time whistle went, a frustrated Diego just snapped. He absolutely lost it and went berserk. He headbutted one player, elbowed another, and knocked one out cold with his knee, not caring for 1 second that the King of Spain was right there in the stadium, watching everything live. Maradona's actions led to a really huge brawl on the pitch between the Athletic and Barcelona players, and the Argentine was right at the heart of it all, kicking and punching whoever was within reach. Fans would later get involved, throwing objects at players, coaches, photographers, whoever they could find. Eventually, about 60 people were injured as a result of this brawl, so Barcelona decided they had had enough. Yes, Maradona was a pure talent, perhaps the greatest they had ever had at the club at the time. But that attitude he displayed that day was an absolute disgrace. So, he was sold. That final was the last game he ever played in a Barcelona shirt. He moved to Napoli in the summer of 1984 for another world record fee of $6.9 million. In Naples, he was presented to a record stadium attendance of 75,000 people. He was the biggest football superstar in the world, playing in the toughest league at the time. With Napoli, Maradona led Argentina to World Cup glory in 1986, then secured Napoli's first Serie A title in 1987 and another Scudetto in 1990, becoming their greatest player and top scorer. That same year, he led Argentina to the World Cup in Italy, where they controversially beat Italy in Naples before losing the final to West Germany, leaving him very emotional. At this point, Maradona was unmatched in superstardom, but fame began to harm him. He partied, missed games, used cocaine, and allegedly had mafia ties. Napoli fined him heavily, but he continued until testing positive for cocaine, earning a 15-month ban and leaving the club in disgrace in 1992. During his absence, he was arrested for cocaine possession and trafficking. After serving his ban, he joined Sevilla, but soon realized he was no longer adored in Europe. So, he decided to pack it up and return home to Argentina, where he was a god. In 1993, Maradona joined Newell's Old Boys, and the next year, he led Argentina to his last World Cup at 33. His retirement plans were unclear, but circumstances forced him to stop. Before the tournament, many thought he was finished. After a long ban, no European football, and weight gain. But in Argentina's opening game at USA 94 against Greece, he proved otherwise. Batistuta scored early, assisted by Simeone, then doubled the lead before halftime. Maradona, though goalless in the first half, was everywhere, dribbling, creating, tackling, showing vintage form. In the 60th minute, surrounded by defenders, he scored a stunning curler. His wild celebration, with bulging eyes at the camera, raised suspicions. FIFA soon decided to test him. After that, he led Argentina into their second match against Nigeria. In that game, he put up another great performance and was directly involved in both Argentina's goals as they beat Nigeria 2-1. After winning their first two games, Argentina were on top of the table. But soon, the news broke. Diego Maradona had failed a drug test and was immediately kicked out of the World Cup in disgrace. Both urine sample analyses were positive, proving he violated doping regulations in the match against Nigeria. Until the case was settled, Maradona was suspended from all football activity.
Both analyses of the urine sample have proved to be positive. The player Diego Maradona of the Argentinian national team has therefore violated the provisions of the doping control regulations in the match Argentina-Nigeria. And until the case is finally settled, Diego Maradona remains suspended from all footballing activity.
The announcement came just 6 hours before Argentina's third game against Bulgaria, shocking the world. Without their captain, Argentina lost 2-0 to Bulgaria and were later knocked out by Romania in the round of 16. Tests showed 5 variants of ephedrine in Maradona's urine, ending his World Cup and international career. Maradona later wrote in his autobiography that the failed test came from an energy drink called Rip Fuel, which his trainer had bought in the US. The American version contained banned substances. Still, given his past with drugs and a recent 15-month ban, many found it hard to believe his explanation. Once again, he was banned for 15 months, which meant he didn't play till 1995 when he rejoined Boer Juniors. But his story with drugs didn't end there. 2 years later, Maradona failed another drug test, and shortly after, he retired from football. Diego Maradona achieved much more than most footballers could dream of. He won Argentina the World Cup, gave Napoli their first Scudetto, scored the goal of the century, and is still regarded by many as the greatest ever player. He is still worshipped in Buenos Aires, Naples, and many cities worldwide. But a huge blemish remained on his life. His talent was undebatable, but his discipline was weak. He couldn't control himself with drugs and alcohol, which ultimately led to his downfall. Still, he will always be remembered as a footballing anomaly. But do you think he would have been much greater if he got his drug problem under control, or never even had one in the first place? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to see more stories like this one that uncover the truth behind the myths, the rise and the fall, the victories and the defeats, then you're in the right place. Subscribe to the channel and check out more videos from us.